Hey, everybody, welcome to our monthly community Zoom call. Tonight, we're going to be chatting about our end of the year goal audit and also talking about looking ahead to 2025 and making sure that we're setting attainable goals slash intentions. We'll kind of talk about the difference between those two things as well and just your perspective on things going into. But before we dive into Renae and I's kind of goal audit, and again, we would love to hear from anybody that's on the call as well. If you had goals that you hit, goals you didn't hit, and how you feel about either one of those. And then kind of same thing about looking ahead to 2025 and setting, again, attainable goals and intentions, and really just picturing who you're trying to become in 2025, which doesn't mean you have to change everything about who you are, but how are you going to evolve and level up in the year of 2025. So before we dive into it, Renae, how was your last month been? How was Thanksgiving? How was November in general?
Good. Um, Pretty steady. Thanksgiving was good, simple, just small. November's been good. Workout's going well. Um, my sleep is not going well, I will say. That's still at like 6.5 hours. So that could use some TLC. Um, Meals are good. I just told Marcus that for dinner tonight, sounds strange, but I had brown rice, scrambled eggs, steak, and then I topped with some mayo. Really good. But the steak I do is bison steak, so it's pretty lean.
There you go.
Um, or else I probably would not add mayo to steak.
And
That's a
and
lot,
I and
lot
I
of fat.
assume you tracked all that like in your macros, yeah?
Um, well, I tracked it before I added the rice and the mayo the other day.
Damn
Um,
it, Renee. I was going to use you as such a good, strong example, and then you just dropped the ball
well,
on
I
me.
did track it the other day, and
Yeah.
like since everything else has been tracked, I could add it in and it'd be fine.
Okay.
Um, I I love the steak and eggs, but after a workout, I need carbs. Like I
Oh, yeah,
need
yeah,
some.
of course, of course.
So
Well,
without
and
having any carbs and just the steak and eggs,
yeah.
I have some carbs in there.
Well, and
Um,
the reason why I ask about if you tracked it, which obviously you understand what the macros were anyway as you were doing it and why you're doing what you're doing. But the reason why I brought that up is just
yeah,
because a lot of people here, I mean, some people are just, intentionally following their meal plan. Other people are tracking their macros. And some people are like, why would I track my macros? There's one more step. Well, one facet for that is you can be creative as hell whenever you know how to track your macros, whenever you know the
oh
value
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah,
having. And you sometimes that results in you having kind of a weird combination of meals because you only have carbs left, or you only have fats left, you have this weird
yeah.
split of stuff. But it's nice to have that skill set where you're short on this and you're above on this or whatever, and how you can kind of adapt to
Just
things.
add this. Yeah, you could also, I could have easily, if I had avocado, I probably would have added avocado to
Yeah,
that actually. That would
yeah,
have been really good.
yeah.
Eggs, steak, rice, and avocado. But um mayo it is. But
It is.
yeah, I did track the other day. I have been tracking because I was um just tracking again to lose a couple pounds before I ordered a dress that I needed to fit
There you go.
this weekend. And yeah, so I did start tracking again. But when you eat the same things, like
It's easy,
again,
yeah.
you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's about all that's me. I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
Thanks.
I know when we do these
Thanksgiving
like
go well.
what'd you say?
Thanksgiving go well.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I have so many allergies that it's like
I
it
know
just
that's what I was gonna say. Do you
yeah.
bring your own food to something like that, or do you
No,
just
so
pick and
my
choose?
mom will make like a decent amount of like gluten-free stuff and just like not tell the other people that it's gluten-free, but like
Because even though it's tasty, people will be like, I don't want to have that healthy shit.
yeah. But she does like green bean casserole still. And then I did like mashed potatoes. And she tried making stuffing, but it was a different brand and it just was absolutely terrible. And she knows it. It's not her fault. Love you, mom. And then I brought my own cookies for dessert because I couldn't have like the pies and such they had. So um I had to run out and get ice cream and beer for the family on Thanksgiving. So that
That's
was
fun.
my contribution to Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome.
and yeah, I don't really know. I feel like November kind of just flew by.
Yeah, it did. It did. try having a baby. Ever since Lola's come
I
along,
think I'm okay.
every month it seems like it's 2 weeks nowadays. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah. Thanks or not Thanksgiving, but November was a good month for us over here as well. Busy. It definitely flew by. You know, these 2 months just always fly by, November, December. Um, and it was really cool getting to see um, Lola be 14 months old and like running around and actually participating on Thanksgiving versus last year she was just like a little tadpole in everybody's arms. So
Tadpole.
that was really cool to see. I figured it'd be like when she was 2 years old, it'd be a lot more fun. And no, she's having a blast right now. So that's awesome. Food wise, I've handled Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that different over the years, year to year, kind of however that makes sense. And I'm in my season. I've given myself some grace and pulling back on the reins a little bit, if you will, or letting loose, I guess. And yeah, so I mean, Thanksgiving was a good day. I think I fasted till about noon, had a good clean meal, had a protein shake before we went over to Thanksgiving. I just had a protein shake as well. And guys, one of the things I always recommend on everybody's shakes for the most part, or at least to always keep on hand, whether it's on your meal plan or not, are some fiber options. So like chia seeds, psyllium husk, those are the two that I always keep on hand as well. So if you're in a pinch and you need some protein and easy thing to pair some fiber with, especially on a day like Thanksgiving where I might not be getting a ton of fiber with the rest of the meals. Just a scoop of protein or a couple scoops of protein and then a tablespoon of ground psyllium husk, I think is like 12 grams of fiber. Or you can do obviously a couple tablespoons of chia seeds and then you've got your fiber as well with that. So just a little thing that I always recommend everybody should have that on hand. I just did it right now. I should have had a blended shake about 30 minutes ago, but now Lola's asleep, so I can't go blend that up before this call. So I just threw in some protein and psyllium husk to get some protein and fiber in. And I'll have my actual regular meal later. But anyway, I digress with that. So yeah, we are into talking about our end of the year goal audit. So before we get into that, I want you guys to kind of have some mindsets going into this reflection. So if you're able to see the screen right now, end of the year reflections are a valuable opportunity to assess your progress, growth, in alignment with your values and goals. So as we're kind of talking, as Renae and I are talking about our goals for this year, our intentions, and how we executed those, along with what we're going to be doing in 2025. I want you to be thinking about your own and how does it compare to ours, but also just what are your things that you're thinking about as you're thinking about that. Have these mindsets in the forefront of your mind as well. So first and foremost, gratitude over perfection. Celebrate what went well, even if everything didn't go as planned. Growth often happens in unexpected ways. So we can all have a plan, we can all set our expectations and intentions, but life sometimes has other plans and things evolve day to day sometimes, let alone week to week, month to month, and year to year. So gratitude over perfection. Number two thing to keep in mind is compassion for your journey. I feel like this is something that really a lot of people that are here in thriving lives, they struggle with is compassion for their journey. So avoid self-criticism and view setbacks as learning opportunities rather than failures. Now, obviously, if you need a kick in the ass and you need to get focused, then get focused and get that kick in the ass if that's what you need. But for the most part, avoid that negative self-talk and that self-criticism. And look at your mistakes, look at your struggles as learning opportunities, right? That's how we should all do it. If you're part of the Chiefs and you're 11-1, but you're struggling to get by and barely winning, they need to be reflecting and looking, try to find the things they can improve upon, even within the wins, but especially in losses. Same thing for you guys. And that's again why check-ins are so important. And yes, we will circle all of this back to the importance of check-ins because that's literally what we do every single time. Curiosity instead of judgment. Approach your reflection with curiosity, asking why and what can I learn rather than what's wrong with me. And if you guys are listening, and especially if you're listening on the playback, I know there's gonna be a lot of people that resonate with that one because they often ask themselves, what's wrong with me? And they beat themselves up for having struggles or whatever the case is, or not reaching certain goals. And that's energy that does not serve you well. That's energy that just beats you down. And you might have other people in your life that are constantly beating you down. Don't add to that, right? Compassion and curiosity, right? Next thing over here, flexibility over rigidity. Recognize that goals and priorities can evolve. Reflect on whether your current goals still align with who you are. as kind of I was looking over this stuff before we hopped on the call, I recognize there were some things that I set as goals or intentions last year around this time that maybe halfway through the year didn't really serve me anymore. Maybe I passed them, or maybe it wasn't as big of a deal as what I might have thought it been. So understand that life evolves. Now, with that said, if things just get hard and you're not doing a great job of reaching something, that's not a reason to just say, oh, screw this goal, all because you don't think you're going to hit it. You still want to make sure you're working towards that, right? And just understanding when things need to evolve and when they don't. And then the last one here, focus on effort and intentions. Acknowledge the effort you've put in, even if outcomes weren't perfect. So maybe you worked your ass off and you just didn't get quite to where you wanted to get to, or maybe it's just a work in progress, which a lot of these things we're going to talk about and a lot of your goals, they're all works in progress, right? I mean, some of them, they might just be, all right, checked it off, done it, finished that. I'm thinking about like, I wanted to get a certification. Okay, that's something I did, right? But if I set intentions that I just want to further my education, and that's the goal or intention I set, that's not ever done, right? I just want to keep evolving, keep learning, and keep growing. So some of your goals and intentions are going to have an end date or a box that you can check off, and other ones, they're just continuous, right? And a lot of the health things that we're going to talk about are always continuous. You might want to lose 30 pounds, but what happens when you lose that 30 pounds? You're going to gain it back so you can lose it again? Or is that point, then it's continuous of maintaining that. So acknowledge the effort you've put in, even if the outcomes were not perfect. All right. So we're going to dive into kind of what, Renae, want to hear kind of what your goals or intentions for 2024 were, and what's your audit kind of look like of that. What did you do well? What did you have to pivot with throughout the year? And just kind of where you're at and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I was telling Marcus before we hopped on here that I'm someone that I like the word intentions better than goals. Just with my own mindset, and a lot of the things I like write down for my like New Year's goals tend to be more intentions. And so a lot of mine are things that aren't tangible, but I can give examples for how I did those certain intentions. And then again, I like to check in like every once in a while, maybe every couple months, on remind myself of my goals and intentions. And so a lot of mine also tend to like carry over into each year. Like I was remaking them for 2025, and I was like, a lot of these honestly are still pretty similar. Like these are still things I want to continue into my life. Um, and I'm also the type of person that if I think of something in March that I want to start implementing into my life, I'm not going to save that till 2026 goals. Like it's just going to be something that I add to those
Mhm.
intentions that are ongoing. So while the end of the year is a good time to reflect on your intentions, I think there's no difference between December 31st and January 1st, personally.
Yep.
Um, so that's just me. But so the first one was just continuing the healthy body, healthy mind, which again, that's kind of just embedded into my life at this point. I would say the main thing I wanted this year, like my big picture, was growing into uncomfortability, and doing more things that made me uncomfortable, made me scared. So that first kind of started out by me being a Pilates instructor. That was kind of like the brink of it. I had never taken Pilates, never done Pilates, and decided to be an instructor. And so that was a big learning curve. Great, served me while it served me, and then I left when it was no longer serving me, when it was getting in the way of my other like main life issues and just
And focuses and goals and stuff.
focuses. Yeah, issues not the right word. Focuses.
Well, also, and not to dive into it, kind of what it was, but you recognize the energy that the other people around you in that circumstance was definitely not serving you. It was only holding you down and holding you back, and
And
making
then my
it.
energy was not great either due
Exactly.
to being overworked and taking on too much.
Yep.
And so while there's a difference between doing something that challenges me at the beginning of the year, which it was making me uncomfortable,
Mhm.
that was good and growth. And then there's a difference between this is uncomfortable and this is not serving me.
Yep.
Um,
This is hurting
so
where you're trying to go.
yeah, it was hurting to where I was trying to go.
Yep.
So even though it was also very uncomfortable for me to leave that situation that I had broadcasted to everyone, oh, I'm a Pilates instructor, or this, that. That was also just as hard to then take a step back and leave that.
And there's
So
and there's so much growth in that too, knowing when to cut your losses on something, or not
so much growth.
losses,
Yeah.
just knowing when you need to pivot in life. And
Yeah.
that was one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. The same thing that made me uncomfortable was the same thing that also helped me grow even
Mhm.
more into uncomfortability when I decided to leave.
Yep.
And then just more so like posting more on social media, more of my body, more of my mental health, things like that is always a little bit uncomfortable. So that's another, those are just a couple examples of how I played out that intention.
Yep.
And then the other one was a mantra of mine. It's like patience, presence, and perseverance. And I definitely could work more on patience. And so that's just another one that is still just going to be tacked on to 2025. And it's just another thing that I want to just focus on. Um, and then I had some things on there about my own mental health as far as what I wanted to work through in therapy. Um, and then another intention of mine was empowering others by just being encouraging and my genuine self, which is pretty cool. I have had a lot of my own clients tell me that I encourage them and they look up to me, things like that. So that's pretty cool. Um, Continue to build muscle was one of mine. But again, you'll notice I didn't say like I want 70 pounds of skeletal muscle mass. Some people may say that. And again, I'm just someone that would rather kind of blanket state it. Um, because it's constantly on my mind to build muscle and to things like that. Um, Another just random one of mine was 2 new tattoos. I got 1 tattoo. Um, Learn more about the female cycle. Definitely did that. Talked a lot about like the menstrual disc I started using, and then just more things on hormones and female health. But again, same as Marcus said, like learning more isn't a tangible goal.
Mhm.
Um,
It's an ongoing
and
thing that there's no set parameters for.
yeah, there's no end in sight to it. And then the other big thing for me this year was adding in more lighthearted fun. For probably a good year, I was very isolated. Wouldn't really allow myself to like have fun, get to know people, things like that. And this year I definitely kind of stepped out of that comfort zone. In friendships, relationships, things like that, and just kind of took a trip to Mexico and Denver and just things like that to where I feel like um I added in just more fun, which has been really cool. I made some new friends and kind of worked on my relationship with alcohol as well. So those are kind of my 2024 things. And then you want me to go over 2025 or
Uh, let's come back to that. Let's come back to
okay.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's come back to that. No, perfect though. I mean, every single thing that you named. I mean, there are obviously things that you wanted to grow in, and I think you did it definitely. I mean, from my perspective on the outside looking in, you definitely conquered every single one of those things and are
Yeah.
continuously conquering those things. Um, and so if you're setting kind of those continuous intangibles and stuff of that nature, um, again, it's not something you just, and none of this is, even if it's a set actual goal, like a quantifiable goal, you don't set it right now and then wait until next December 4th to look at this, right?
Yeah,
It's
no.
something that we have to be reflective on along the way, right? Whether you do this quarterly or you do this monthly or you do this weekly, right? These are things that need to be on the forefront of your mind. We can't just arbitrarily say, this is my goal, this is my intention, and then expect shit to happen. We have to set that. And then what are some things? Like Renae just said, if she's trying to step into more uncomfortable situations so she can grow, she doesn't just say that. It's okay, now what are 10 versions of that? What are 10 little things that she can do? And then she's always looking for more of those things. What are some things I could say yes to that maybe I would have never said yes to up until this point in my life?
And I
And
think it's not something where like I'm not presented an opportunity. I'm like, oh yes, I need to do this because my goal was to grow into more uncomfortability. It's more so I look back every couple months, I'm like, oh yeah, this was really uncomfortable and I did that. This was uncomfortable and I did that.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, it's going back and kind of like auditing the year
yeah,
of what was uncomfortable, what did
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah.
And I only did that probably because it was on the front of my mind
Exactly.
to do things that scare me, that make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, but if I just wrote these down on December 31st and then didn't look at them again,
Exactly.
I'm not going to be able to really go back and think what I did
Yeah.
because it wasn't
Yeah.
intentional. Does
Yeah.
that make sense what I'm
No,
trying to
no, no.
say?
It definitely does. And part of the reason why I was even saying that too is because, and again, just to bring this back into to check-ins and stuff like that, but also there's so many times where I'll get a new client, inquiry or a consult call, and I'll hear what that person's goals are, and all of a sudden we're 2 weeks into things or 2 months into things, and they're acting like that was never a goal. Like it's not something that's on the forefront of their mind, and that's exactly what I'm trying to get at right here is that whenever you're setting goals and you say, I want to do something, I'm going to do something, you can't say it and then forget about it for the next
No.
month. You can't say it and not be intentional with it. There's a reason why you have not accomplished that so far is because you have not been working at that thing,
Yeah.
and actually trying to build that. So you have to be aware of this stuff. And guys, if you're lacking motivation, that's one of those things where we always kind of talk about you can't rely on motivation, right? Action's going to breed that motivation to come, right? Momentum kind of breeds that. But at the same point, though, you got to be aware of these things. And you got to know, am I actually measuring up to where I'm trying to go? Am I actually completing the actions that are aligned with who I'm trying to become? You can't just say, I want to become this person and not do the actions or not know what the actions are. So you definitely got to know that stuff. And that's again why, and I'll say this probably again at the end of the call, you got to be showing up for check-ins. You got to be showing up and having these micro reflections along the way so that you can keep a thumb on things, keep a temperature of where you're at and everything.
I
uh
think too, you have to kind of be like ready for what you're intending your goals and intentions to be.
yeah.
Like had my if in 2023 my intentions or 2022, probably 2023 were to add more lighthearted fun, I would not have accomplished that because I was not there. I was in a very just different mental space and I wasn't ready. Whereas now towards the end I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to maybe add a little bit more into my life and not just be so work centered or so like therapy centered. And so when that is a goal, I can more so like initiate it in my life because I'm ready for it. So
Yeah.
it's making goals and intentions that you're ready for, that you're eager to meet.
Mhm.
I think that makes a big difference. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. So my goals, kind of the way I do this, I have more of like categories, right? So starting with health is not usually one that I have specific goals for. In the past it's been, do this bodybuilding show or whatever the case is. That's not on my radar. It wasn't last year and it won't be on the next handful of years most likely anyway. So that hasn't really been on my radar. But so one of the reasons why health things are usually not on mine is because I'm in a healthy maintenance point of my life in terms of I have this baseline. I mean, the I adjusted all of my people's check-ins the other day, and one of the things I added to the bottom of those check-ins, I don't know if any of you on the call here saw what I put to the bottom of that, and it's what are the staples that every single person should try to get to and maintain in their life from a health perspective, right? That's like, 10,000 steps a day. That should be a goal that we're all able to consistently hit. You're not going to hit every day, but that's one of those things we want to try to work towards. It's water intake, right? That's, 90 ounces for females and a gallon for males. It's at least 3 to 4 quality servings of protein a day. Like these are basic staples that we should all get to. And for the most part, 99% of the days of the year, I'm executing these things. So that's why health is usually not one of those things that I'm thinking about in terms of setting goals. But most of you, if you're here with Thriving Lives, health should be one of those things that you are looking at that as a pillar. And what are the things that you are actively trying to work on? It could be improve lab work numbers, right? It could be get your damn energy back, right? It could be fit into, your favorite jeans or something of that nature. It could be a ton of different things like that. But so kind of how I organize mine, I've got like a family and friends column. So, with running a business, being a new parent, being an introvert as well, that I love nothing more than being home. I have to actively think about, I need to go out and see my friends. I need to see family. And so I have it where, I'm trying to see a certain group of friends once a month. I'm trying to see my parents and Nicole's family once a month and stuff of that nature. So I actually put that on like a spreadsheet, and then I put down columns for January, February, March, so on and so forth, the rest of the year. And each month, when I go and do my budget look at finance and stuff, I also go look at this goal thing. I'm like, did I execute what I wanted to this month? And if I didn't, not a big deal. I don't need to punch myself in the face for it. But what I do need to know is, okay, I need to be intentional about this week or this month, and plan that out. I might right then say, hey, y'all trying to get together, on this date or whatever the case is. And so that's how I can keep things negative momentum or negative habits from building and turning into bigger ones, right? So I kind of do the same thing with all that stuff. I'll do the same thing for kind of travel in that group as well. Then I've got a whole nother category on there for business growth. This last year, business growth and like education, I kind of put in the same thing. And I had a mentorship I wanted to do. And as of December last year, I had not paid for this. I had not started the process of doing it. And then I think it was February or March, I started this business or this coaching mentorship for functional nutrition. And that's where I learned how to work more with complex cases and stuff of that nature, like working with GI maps, working with hormones, PCOS, and that type of stuff. So I really wanted to branch out to that so I could serve people, even current clients that maybe I didn't know exactly what I needed to do for them. And so I was like, I don't want to be in this position where I don't know how to help. And so then I was like, okay, how can I add this on? I got a couple other certifications, bodybuilding certification, a nutritionist certification. I had some other courses that I had purchased in the past years that I finally went and did. And so those were things that I said, I want to grow in this way. And so this year was all about, growth in the education side of things so I can serve my people to a much greater degree. So that was kind of, the business and education growth. I had some home goals as well, just like simple things, stain the deck. Like it's something that I just want to be able to say that this is something that's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. I'm gonna have to carve out a weekend to do. And I ended up doing that stuff as well. And then lastly, financial goals, whether that's investment goals or, paying off debt or whatever the case is, I have these goals as well that I'm actively working towards. And so, like I said, I don't just write that down December 4th and come back the next December 4th. This is an ongoing monthly temperature check. I want to know, what am I doing well? What am I in line with? And where am I falling short? And how can I be more intentional to get there? Right. So that's kind of what I'm doing with all that type of stuff. Renae, any thoughts kind of on because my version obviously is different.
The only thing I was gonna add was um you had made these goals of like seeing your friends once a month when Lola was only 2 months old, 3 months old. So now instead of you, let's say you realize that goal was too big for you to handle, instead of you beating yourself up like, oh God, I cannot see my friends once a month.
Yeah.
That's where Marcus would have gone in and been like, okay, let's adjust this goal. And
Yeah.
it needs to be once every other month
Yeah.
instead of shaming yourself or instead of just forgetting about that goal entirely. So if your goals are too big or if they're not meeting your current needs and lifestyle, then you have to adjust them, but you have to do it mindfully. Is the
Yes.
only thing I could add.
Yes. And I'm happy you brought that up because that goes right back into that slideshow that I had initially, which was, recognize that your goals and priorities can evolve. They can change, and there's nothing wrong with them changing. So just because I wrote that down in December or whatever last year, like Renae said, I mean, Lola evolved and business evolved and everything else has kind of changed. And so some months just didn't serve me that was going to necessarily happen. Now,
But
again,
it's not an excuse.
exactly.
It's
It's the
not,
reality. It's the
it's a
reality.
reality. Correct.
And it wouldn't serve me to sit here and be like, oh, I didn't execute that. Or same thing with certain financial goals, right? I mean, there's I got to pay for a new HVAC, that's going to be a lot of money, and so that's going to keep me from hitting some other goals. But that's not for lack of trying, right? I'm still aware of these things, I'm still moving in that right direction. So it's you gotta, that goes back to the mindsets that I was talking about,
Yes.
flexibility over rigidity and knowing when to give yourself grace and what to be grateful for. You might not be quite where you are, but hey, if you're on the journey, because really that's really what all this kind of boils down to, right? It's always about the journey of getting there than it is just about the actual end goal. And some of these don't have end goals, and some of them do have end goals, but even once you get to the end goal, you can't just let off the gas and just stop living. You've got to now set new goals or evolve that however that kind of looks. So yeah, good point of that, Renae, is understanding that life might need to change a little bit. Aviel said, hey, help me set a list of health goals. We can definitely do that. And so that's also another step that you guys could take with this as well. You should be actively, and again, you don't just need to do this in December going into the new year. You should be doing this all year round, but this is a time where the year is changing. The calendar year is changing. And so it is a good time to sit here and kind of reflect. And that's when I
And
do it as well.
this is where, like, for you guys, check-ins come in handy. When we're talking about goals, when we're talking about that stuff. So you guys have that access to these check-ins to reflect on that weekly. I reflect on it every other week in therapy on like my own like mental health
Yeah.
goals that I'm working on. So you have to set yourself up for success. Like if I wasn't in therapy, then yeah, I'm probably not going to focus on these things because how am I going to do it? Like I've, so you have to kind of take advantage of what you have and put yourself in those positions where you are checking in, you are reflecting on this. So yeah.
I completely agree. So yeah, so that's where your check-ins are absolutely vital to all this stuff. And that's why we're not just asking you how much you weighed this week, right? We're wanting you to reflect on everything, your entire life to an extent. Um, and that's how you're going to be aware of these things. That's how you're going to know when you need to adapt or when you need help doing it. And so as you kind of leave this call tonight, as you're thinking about this stuff, if you need help with something, if you need help determining what your goals are, what they should be. Have that conversation with Renee and I. Again, that's why we're here, is to help you, help guide you on this journey as well. And not that we have all the answers, but maybe we have the right questions to ask you, so that you can, because you're the ones actually with the answers. You just might not know what question to answer in order to kind of get there. But yeah, so those are kind of how we kind of set up goals. So if you don't have a system of setting up goals or intentions for each year, then again, ask us that, right? I've got my Excel sheets that I like to use, and I'll color code them for the different areas of my life. And again, I do my check-ins that way. You might just have a little list. Some
Yeah, I
people
have a
do well
notes
with,
section on my app.
yeah, something that whatever you use that it's going to be in the forefront of your mind. I mean, shit, write it on your mirror in the bathroom if you need to. Like whatever you need to do to keep it on the forefront of your mind, or maybe have an accountability partner, or again, have us who's going to be checking in on this stuff as well. So be thinking about that type of stuff. So then obviously for 2025, you need to know where you are now. Where have you done well for this last year? Where have you struggled this last year? What are you lacking? What are you doing well at that maybe you don't need to put as much energy into, whatever. And then once you've done that, then you need to think about, what does 2025 hold for me? Again, look at what's already planned for this coming year. Do you already have certain events planned? Do you already have certain trips planned? Do you have a job change? You're moving? Are you getting married? Are you planning on having a baby? Like, what are some big life things that are going to be happening? And maybe nothing's happening, but maybe you already have some of that stuff on the table. So then you want to work backwards, right? You might not be able to hit this massive savings goal this coming year because you've got a wedding to pay for or a new baby on the way or whatever that looks like, right? So it comes back to, you have attainable goals. And then also for some people, you need something to scare the shit out of you. You need a goal that's like so audacious. Is that the right word? That it scares you, but it's still in the right direction that you want to move into. You might not get there. You probably won't get there, but hey, as long as you're shooting that direction, you're going to end up somewhere better than where you are today. That's more in the right direction you want to be into. So again, you want to have those big goals. You also want to have those small checkpoints that keep you motivated, keep you moving in the right direction, keep you understanding that you are on the correct path, and doing your thing. So I don't think we necessarily dive into specifically our goals. I will say this from a health perspective. So a couple of my goals that I'm trying to work towards, is I recognize this year, both through this audit, but also just how I've been kind of feeling the last few months, is I don't feel athletic anymore. Ever since I left PE teaching, I'm not running around getting 20,000 steps and throwing and dribbling and shooting and doing all the stuff that I did as a PE teacher. I don't find myself to be as athletic as I once was. So I don't know if you guys have been following me on like social media and stuff, but I've been posting more about, me going to do like basketball conditioning type of workouts, because that's when I felt my absolute most athletic. So I've been working on that stuff. I want 2025 to be a year that I find my athleticism again and I stay healthy in those ways. I want to be able to take a sprint whenever I want to take a sprint and not worry about, oh, I'm in my 30s, I'm going to pull something doing it. No, I want my body to be used to it, so it's not such a shock whenever I actually do go do it. I want to do that. I want to do at least a small stint in ketosis, just because I can coach keto clients, but I've never had a need to do it myself. And I kind of just want to expand and challenge myself in a different way that I haven't done before, even if it's only for, 2, 3, or 4 weeks or whatever. I don't intend on it to be a long thing. And another thing as well that I had as kind of a health goal for 2025 is I want to, and I do this always, so this isn't anything different, but I need to get some new lab work done just to see where things kind of stand. And so should really all of you guys, whether that's just your normal routine stuff at the doctor's office or getting the comprehensive one that Renee and I always recommend as well. It's good to know that stuff. Even if you're not having any negative symptoms, then hey, then it's just a good report card, right? And if you feel good, but then you get that lab work back and you're like, oh, there's some shit that I can improve. Well, good thing you know it, and now we can actually work on it. Don't run from that scary health stuff because ignorance is only bliss until it catches up to you and then it's not anymore. And then you got to deal with a bigger shitstorm than if you would have just addressed it when it wasn't as big of a deal. But Renae, you got any goals for this coming year? Those are kind of my short ones right there. I don't need to bore you with the actual specifics of the rest of the goals. Renae, you got any thoughts on your goals of this coming year?
Um,
And then I want to open up to everybody else. So if you have thoughts on your own goals audit from 2024, what you're planning on doing for 2025, you have questions or you want help doing something, here after Renae kind of answer this, I want to hear from you guys if you have anything before we let you go for the night.
a couple of mine are just expanding hormone health knowledge, lab work, deep health, things like that. I want to strengthen my network, as far as like coaching, just things like that.
Okay.
That goes hand in hand with always like my TLF growth.
Yeah.
Continue my like lighthearted fun and social life. Honor my whole body health and prioritize it. I'm great at prioritizing my health in some aspects, but there's always aspects I could also work on. And then I want to work more on optimism, which again, I don't know how I'll measure that, but it's something where I'll just constantly kind of be on the forefront of my mind.
Mhm.
Um, More quality time with my dog, more patience with him, and then just being more open-minded to like feedback or changes in my current ways, is another
I like that.
thing that I just, yeah. So nothing major special.
Yeah.
But again, it's just when I constantly am aware of my own mental health, and which is the biggest thing really when you're doing goals.
Yeah.
When I'm aware of that in therapy, I'm constantly reflecting on it, constantly being shown
Yeah.
different things. And so, yeah.
I love it. Those are good goals. Intentions, if you will. Anybody
Yeah.
else? You guys have thoughts, questions, things you guys want to share? And again, no pressure if you don't. I understand that all these goals and thoughts and stuff like that are very personal to you guys, so you don't have to share. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity. Unmute yourself if you got something to say or throw it in the chat. Just to fill the silence, some things that you guys can do that can help me and Renae hit some goals for Thriving Lives as well. Some things that you guys could do if you want to help it out. I have a goal of I started collecting reviews this last year. We're at like 56. One of my goals is to try to get 100 reviews, which should be easy, you would think, but it's hard to get people to go leave you a review. It only takes a few seconds. At this point, it's been like, I don't know, I've had 500, 600, 700 people come through Thriving Life, so I should be well past that. But I, for the first 7 years, forgot to ask for it. So that's one thing you guys can help out with. And then between Renae and I want to be able to help out. I want to have an impact on another 50 to 75 people between Renae and I, new people that we have not gotten to work with before, and try to impact that many more people's health. Mickey, you got something to say? Through your hand.
I always have something to say, but yes.
Give it, give it up.
My first point I put on here, I want to learn to pivot and not quit, because I too have an all or nothing mindset. And I feel like when stuff's not working out, I'm just like, oh, I give up. Like, it's not all or nothing. Like, there's always gray. And so I want to make that a priority.
I love that. So ditching the all or nothing mindset and just find more consistency and healthy baseline on the day to day then.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Well, that actually kind of goes right into Brandon here, made a comment here, being more consistent, showing up on a daily basis, not being perfect, but building sustainable habits and not all or nothing. So exactly what you just said. So it's funny that you had that to say right as he was kind of
And
typing.
Valerie said the same thing too, right above.
Oh shit, I didn't even see you, Val. Yeah, I want to work on my all or nothing mindset. Yeah, so it's probably
Common theme.
it's probably one of the most common things that I that so many people have to work on, right? I mean, I would say almost everybody that's ever come through Thriving Lives, this is something they kind of struggle with. Which again, this comes back to the importance of your guys' check-ins, because sometimes you deserve grace for whatever happened this week. And yeah, other times you're making excuses, whatever the case is, but usually you're beating yourself up and you're falling off, and you fell off on Monday, so you threw away the rest of the week, and then you didn't check in, and things just snowball from there. I appreciate Brandon the other day. He's been struggling. I don't want to go deep into his story, but we hopped on a call because he was struggling with this exact same thing, right? All or nothing mindset. He's either kicking ass and being perfect and going above and beyond way more than what I would even ask of most people. And then he burns out, or it doesn't even burn out. It's just one thing happens, and then it's just this snowball effect going in the other way. And that's where, again, the worst weeks that you're having, mentally wise, habit wise, whatever, the most important times that you need to be checking in, but that's the hardest check-in to do, is when you're not doing well. And so that's where, Brandon's got to do better at this. And there's a lot of other people within Thriving Lives as well that suffer from that same thing, this all or nothing thing. And the way to get better at that is you got to just show up. You got to do the small things, and you got to raise the baseline of what you're doing.
Sometimes I think too, it's something where you never know what that person, like who, like if me or Marcus, whatever, like if what we're going to say in that check-in is something that you needed to hear, to continue going. Like I was going through something a couple weeks ago, and Nicole, Marcus's wife, called me, and she said a few things that just like really just like hit home. And it's one of those things where it's like, had I have not shared those struggles with Marcus or whatever, and just kind of stayed in my own thoughts, reeling in my own thoughts and overthinking all of this and just panicking. A simple 20-minute phone call with Nicole, she said something that just resonated. And so in your check-ins, if you feel like something, like maybe something that we're going to say is going to resonate, and so don't be afraid to communicate those struggles. And it's not necessarily like you're not complaining, you're not.
No.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, this is a place that you can complain to an extent, right? We want you to unload on us sometimes, right? You have to get some shit out of your head because you might not have anybody else to do it. Maybe you do have other people to do it too. But again, this is all within the realm. Though your relationship at home with your spouse might have nothing to do with Thriving Lives, it does have everything to do with Thriving Lives, because you're in a stressful environment, and that creates a compound effect in everything else you're doing, whether you're working out or working out too much to escape it, how you're eating, right? Maybe you're pacifying those emotions with food or whatever the case is. And so while there's things that might not be within Thriving Lives, everything affects this stuff, because this all goes hand in hand with your health and with your habits and your choices and your stress, your all or nothing mindset. Maybe you're having a really tough week at work, and that's when every single time you have a tough week at work is when you let go of workouts and nutrition and everything else. And one of the things I was talking about with Brandon is what I talk about with so many people is, guys, we got to fucking build a baseline that you don't fall below even on your worst weeks. And that baseline doesn't have to be super high. I'm not saying your baseline needs to be 90% execution of perfect. Your baseline needs to be the basics, the things that your health needs, no matter what the fuck you got going on in your life. Water intake is an easy one. Make sure that happens, right? You might not be able to get 10,000 steps in, but shit, you can still get in a couple thousand steps. Like a couple thousand is better than absolutely nothing. Food wise, we all got to eat every single day. So the things that you can do to maintain your healthy baseline is meal prep. And hey, if you couldn't meal prep because life just threw such a big wrench at you that you couldn't do it and you couldn't pre-plan for it, then that's when you should have
healthy options.
There are healthy options. I mean, again, like things like protein powder and psyllium husk that I just said I just chugged down before this, you don't have to prep that. That took me a few seconds to go make. Now, if I was stressed, I'd have this option. And if you have other unhealthy options at home, number one, you shouldn't have those at home if you're tempted to have those in stressful times. And even if you do, this took absolutely no energy to have to go make right now. Courtney, what you got?
Oh my gosh, my dogs.
I can't hear your dogs. I think you're fine. She just yelled at her dogs.
Okay, sorry. Well, I was gonna say, one of my goals was kind of similar to like, not really necessarily like all or nothing, but like similar to what Renae said earlier, where she was like, more optimistic, more positive mindset, where I feel like that also goes hand in hand. Also, like when I'm feeling really negative, that also sometimes feels like all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
for
so
sure.
I think that like my all or nothing mindset comes from like a stem of like stress or negativity. So I think once I can get control of my like stress factors in my life, which one would be like financial freedom and like moving out, or one of my big goals for the next year, just to have my own space, my own kitchen, my own like, not to say that my family is negative, because they're not, but like it's just a different environment. I feel like when you live by yourself, because like for them, they're not on a diet. They can have cookies and they can have ice cream out of the wazoo at night, and I'm there and I've got negative thoughts, and I'm like, I really want some ice cream, because you just got a bowl of ice cream, like, and then I have more negative thoughts, and then more negative, like, and then I'm like, oh well, I ate that, so I just might as well just give up, because I already put myself in a hole that's so deep I can't get out. You know what I'm saying? You've got like
So when negative things are happening to you, you see them as more permanent things. Like you don't really see an end in sight, even though when you pull back and logically can think about it, you're like, yeah, this isn't permanent. But when you're in that emotional mind, negative things become permanent in your mind. Nicole, my wife, deals with the same exact thing, and that's also Renae deals with the exact same thing as well. Is when negative things happen, it is the realest thing, the heaviest thing, the most permanent thing in life. And then in times of joy and happiness and good things are going, you see those things as temporary. Like, well, when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Yeah.
And so, like Renae said, she wants to become more optimistic. And I'm not saying that it's easy to kind of get to that point. And some people I think are just naturally that way, or maybe it's just the environment that they're around as they grow up. Maybe that's what nurtures them into that path. But anybody can become more optimistic than they are pessimistic. You just have to be able to recognize the thoughts. The faster you can recognize those thoughts, get the hell out of emotional mind and get more to logical mind with it, you can see this is a temporary thing. And I'm a good person. I do the right things. My actions are good and well intentioned. So good things will happen to me. I'm not going to be stuck living in this absolute, permanent negative thing. But on the flip side of that too, when bad shit's happening, and maybe this is more of my mindset. I go straight to, what is the solution? How can I end this as fast as I can and get back to the good times? Right. And sometimes you don't have much control over it. And you just have to trust and hope and pray that everything is going to work out. But most times you do have some control. But again, the faster you can get out of that emotional mind and get into logical mind, it serves you well.
And you need people around you in that same mindset to be able to point that out as well. If you have everyone around you who has no idea the difference between logical mind and emotional mind, and they want to sit in their negativity, yeah, you're going to feed on it.
Yeah.
And so you have to find, Courtney, me moving out was a major difference for me this year in May. Huge, 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 huge. Again, love my parents, love my family, but it was something I needed to do for myself, my own independence, my own mindset. Huge. And it just, independence, it just trickles into other little things on your own.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly where I need to be, is like, even if it's I'm renting a studio apartment and I just need to figure it out for myself, like I think it's also going to help me get out of my negative, like all or nothing. Like for my check-in this week for Thanksgiving, I was feeling like really insecure. I didn't even post my progress pictures, because I was like, man, I'm bloated. I hate this right now. I feel so terrible. My check-in was so negative and so terrible. And then I went on the scale literally the next day, and it like my weight never changed. And I was like, oh, so you're just being dramatic and negative, and there was no reason to say all of those things and be negative like that. Yeah. So,
And
but like,
I will say, you still checked in, even though, and again, progress pictures are never the most important thing. Neither is weight. Your actual mental reflection, where you can actually just lay your thoughts and feelings out, is important.
But had she have not even had you have just turned a blind eye and you're like, I don't want to look at the mirror, I'm not like, I feel bloated, I don't feel good, then you would have kept going. And so had you have not checked that and like resonated with it, you have to see those negative, like sometimes you have to see that to push forward.
You have to feel it. You have to feel it.
You have to feel those emotions, but then you also have to be like, okay, yeah, this is okay. I didn't just spiral. This isn't the end of the world.
yeah.
And it was,
but now that probably helped you from not indulging even more, or just getting right back on track the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proud of you, Courtney. Brandon, what you got, brother? Hey, you're muted.
Uh,
There you
hey
go.
everyone. I would say for me, something that I've been struggling with is comparing myself to who I used to be. And I haven't been focusing on like my daily, the daily wins that I'm getting. So like when I'm doing check-ins and it's like, what are some wins you have? For me, since I'm not where I want to be, I don't see that I had any wins. And like now it's like I have to daily reflect on like some things that went well
Mhm.
because that's what's gonna help me like see that momentum. And that's what's gonna give me like the confidence. Like, today I got up before work, I worked out. That was a win. But like when I do my check-in with Marcus and he asked what were some wins, he may not even know that I had that and that was a win because like
Yeah.
I didn't recognize that. And in my mind,
Mhm.
since I'm not where I want to be like progress wise, I see like, my whole progress part not being where I want to be. So like it's like a negative thing. And
Yeah.
that's what's, keeping me in that space of like all or nothing, of
Yeah.
like, feeling like a failure and like, having like this, this really bad negative outlook. And another thing is along with like the daily habits is being bought in. I feel like since I've joined that I've kind of just like, like Marcus is like holding my hand, but I really haven't like allowed him to fully coach me, to an extent to where like, when I'm doing check-ins, like my check-in is like I'm really reflecting and like talking about things I'm struggling with and actually looking at, what's holding me back, what's keeping me from like achieving the goals that I actually want. And I noticed like some things like, I might watch a basketball game and like the game, like the Lakers, the game doesn't end until, midnight because they're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And now I wake up the next day, I wake up late because I slept in because, I stayed up until midnight.
Yeah.
So now I only got 5 hours of sleep. So now I'm running behind for work. Now I don't bring my lunch. Now I'm in survival mode and it's Monday. And now Monday, since it was a shit day, it just trickles into the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And now all because like those small decisions that I made like the night before,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So like those are some things that I've recognized and that now I'm trying to, work on. We got off a call yesterday and I just wrote out some things this morning, on my notepad and it was just I felt different, you know what I mean? Really being able to like reflect, you know what I mean, and like really sit in silence, looking at, some of the habits, some of the behaviors that I had today,
Mhm.
opposed to like what I was doing. Not saying it was like a perfect day,
Yeah.
but
It
it
was better.
definitely made a difference. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
actually looking at what I was doing and what I was doing, doing previously. So
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. One thing I want to kind of take it a step further of what you're kind of saying. You mentioned kind of at the start of that. You might have a workout on like Thursday, let's say, and then on Sunday, whenever you actually go to check in, you might not even include that as like a win, even though
yeah,
you hadn't been getting any workouts, and that was a win. And so, one other thing that the check-in is such a great thing for because and it's okay, like you don't have to come and have this perfect mindset whenever you check in.
yeah,
It's cultivated over time. We grow that, we build that over time. And so when you check in and you say, I didn't have any wins this week, even though I just saw you said you crushed your nutrition Monday through Thursday, or you got 2 workouts and whatever, that's a quick point right there that it's a coaching moment where I can say, dude, you just said you had 0 wins, even though you did this and last week you had 0 workouts. So you took a step forward. And if you hadn't checked in, I wouldn't have the opportunity to even notice that, say that, and for
100%.
you to be like, oh shit, you're right. And that's how we cultivate that better mindset that's ongoing. And so that's
90% of people, what he just said,
yeah.
relate to.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, Marcus and I see it every single week. So
Mhm.
you're not alone. And I think that's something cool is where everybody goes through this.
Yeah.
People just aren't always upfront about it, but many people are like, I had no wins. I terrible at all of this, terrible week. And then
Yeah.
Marcus and I look at it and we're like, that's not terrible. Like you're still doing better than you were, or okay, let's focus on this.
Yeah.
But definitely something that so many people I think resonate. So I'm glad you shared that, Brandon.
And also two things can be true at once.
Hmm.
You could have had you can still not be where you want to be, but still be celebrating the things you did well this week that are better than what you did last week. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, you might not be happy and necessarily content with where you are right now, and you still have this ladder you're trying to climb up, but you still did shit in this moment that was good. And if you're not celebrating that for yourself, that's fine. but let us do that so that you can start cultivating that better mindset. And again, that's where the continuity of check-ins is important, not the once every now and then. It's the continuity every single week gives us a chance. And it might seem monotonous, but you got to ask these questions of yourself until they become just second nature. Once these things become second nature, you might not need this anymore. You might not necessarily need a specific every single week I need to have this conversation, but until you get to that point where everything is sustainable, everything is happening just naturally, then you need to do that. And if you guys are struggling with that mindset stuff, that all or nothing mindset, that lack of optimism and focus on pessimism, I talk about this almost every single or at least every couple of these Zoom calls. But guys, it worked for me. It works for me whenever I need it. The 5-minute journal is awesome. It's like $30 on Amazon. It's nothing world changing. It seems so small, but again, sometimes the smallest shit you guys can do make the biggest difference in everything. And every day, if you just wake up, you do it for a few minutes in the morning, you do it for a few minutes in the evening. I used to do it just at the end of my workday, so not necessarily before bed, but at the end of my workday to have it at my work desk. It gives you a cool little quote at the top. This says, this quote right here: if you do not tell the truth about yourself, you cannot tell about other people. Which I don't know exactly what that means, that you would probably dive into a little bit deeper, but regardless, every day. And so sometimes they're bangers and sometimes you're like, I'll pass that one. But then it asks you, I'm grateful for 3 lines, and you write down 3 things you're grateful for. Don't write down the same shit as you wrote down yesterday or what you wrote down a week ago or a month ago. Come up with new stuff. So again, the first week is easy. I can say I'm grateful for Lola, Nicole, and boss. The next day, my house, my car, my job, and so on and so forth. But after you get through a week and you've laid out the 15 big things in your life, you got to start diving deeper. What are some other things, some small things that every day I pass by and I don't think twice about it? But in reality, if I didn't have that, I would be sad about that. I would wish I'd had it. And so learn to find the small things you're grateful for. Then what would make today great? 3 things, right? That could be getting your workout in. That could be spending time with your mom. It could be calling your grandma on the phone. It could be some of these small things that are health related or non-health related. And then daily affirmations, I am. And then who are you trying to become? Or what are some truths about yourself that is a reality, right? I'm a good person, or I am the type of person that conquers a state, that follows through on the promises I make to myself, right? That should be something we all try to become, aspire to be, as somebody who, if I make a commitment to myself, then I'm going to uphold that commitment with 100% intensity if I can. And then at nighttime, 3 amazing things that happened today. And then how could I have made today even better? So what are some 3 things that happened that were awesome today? And again, that could be something as simple as maybe you liked the rain, and when you got home, you looked out the window and it was just nice and pleasant at that moment. Again, that seems so small, but that's beginning to live in the present. And I guarantee if you do this, not just for a week, but if you did it for a straight month, if you're a pessimistic person, you become more optimistic, because by week 2, week 3, week 4, you are searching for those small things you're grateful for those small wins that any other day, the rest of your life or in the past life, you would just take for granted. You would never recognize those as wins. And so if you struggle finding the wins, if you struggle finding the things you're doing great at and things of that nature, then do that shit right there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just buy that little book and then just commit to doing it every single day for, give it a month. Maybe you just do that in January, right? Or maybe do the rest of December. I don't know. But anybody who I've told to do this that has actually done it, they've seen results from it. I've seen results from it. I think that really helps a lot of these mindset things we're talking about. Anyway, though, yeah, Brandon, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing. Same thing with you, Courtney and Mickey. Anybody else have anything you want to toss? Anything else out? Oh, Mickey also validated what I said and said gratitude journaling in the AM is life-changing. It does. It sets your mindset in the right way in the morning. And plus, usually you got to wake up early enough that you can be intentional to make sure it happens, which then you're not starting your day every single day in survival mode, rushing out the door. That's one of the things we all have to do a good job at, especially as Americans, is stop living in survival mode and live intentionally.
I think I would add too, that's there. So like Mickey, I think it would be beneficial for you to then go back when you're struggling in the evening or struggling whatever, go back and read what you put in that morning. So if you're spiraling and you're having a bad day and everything's going wrong, what did you find in the morning that was good? And can you go back to that? So it's not just checking that I journaled, check that off the box, but it's actually utilizing that and thinking back to it. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. I'm not where I want to be, but this is pretty good. So again, just using those tools to constantly be on the forefront of your mind.
Yep. I love it. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's something I've been doing for years. Honestly, I don't even remember when I first started gratitude journaling, but I've gotten like really creative. And I feel like even just like the littlest things, like the smell of coffee or whatever that I'm writing is like, wow, like I didn't even realize I was grateful for that until I wrote it down, you know?
For sure.
Well, and we did a whole spotlight on Mickey. What was it, around this time? Probably last year, maybe a little bit before this.
I think it was like
Maybe a
6
few
months
months
ago. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was earlier this year. Okay. Oh, it was
Yeah.
before we switched over to monthly.
Yeah, she's almost on her 1 year. She took
Yeah.
a few months off, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
January.
think it's a year ago this week because I saw on my
Okay.
Snapchat it said this week in previous years, and I was taking
Yeah.
photos. So
If everybody here, let's listen to the playback of this. If you weren't around or you never heard that, you know, that client spotlight with Mickey, definitely go listen to it. Mickey, is it congenital heart failure that you have? Is that what it is? Or am I making that?
congenital, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was impressed then. I'm impressed now. I'm impressed anytime you're doing anything, because whenever you're dealt a shitty hand, again, it's very easy just to fold them, you know what I mean? And just to walk away and be like, well, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. And instead you're showing up on these Zoom calls, you show up in your life how you can, you're doing gratitude journaling. I admire that so much that you're fucking just working at this, you know what I mean? You're not going to let that define you or kind of control where you're at. And I feel like if you're able to have that mindset about it, then other people should definitely be able to buck up and get there as well, and tackle the shit that's difficult that we want to improve about ourselves and evolve.
I appreciate that because this week honestly has been really hard, but Renee's been encouraging me, so it's been helpful.
And you carved time out to show up to this, which hopefully this has kind of helped re-spark you a little bit on top of whatever you and Renae have been talking about. And also kudos you to using your coach. It's what
100%.
It's what we're here for. It's what you're here for. We're not here to be a silent partner in your journey. We're here to be an active partner in your journey. So guys, use us. If you got questions, if you got struggles, do not hold that shit back. And if I can't give you the right answer, then hopefully I have somebody in my arsenal that can give you the right answer. But I think of myself pretty highly, so I can probably figure it out. But anyway, though, well, I appreciate you guys sticking with us a little bit over an hour. Want to respect you guys' time. Plus, I got KU that is hopefully kicking Creighton's ass. Don't tell me if they are or not, because I haven't recorded. So I will see you guys later. Renee's people, make sure you're checking in. My people, make sure you're checking in. Guys, we have, what is it, the 4th right now? We have like 25 days, 26 days of December left. So control what you can, stack the small wins because they do add up, especially when you do those on a consistent basis. Again, we want to run into 2025 with healthy momentum. So after this call, obviously not tonight, but sometime over this next month, definitely take audit of where you're at, where you want to go, why you want to go there, why you're not there yet, and the actionable things that you need to do on a consistent basis. And one of the top of the list items should be what, Renae?
Check-ins.
There you go. Fucking nailed it. All right, cool. Well, you guys have a great rest of your guys' night. Great week. Let us know if you need anything. And go get them, Tiger.
Thanks.
Holidays, everyone.